sun is numb, the Keurig's clean, your dog is dead, it's a Ponzi Scream. Ponzi Scream, Ponzi Scream, because it's just something to do.
Can I tell you both, I love tapas. I can't get enough of them.
And that is incredible. It's incredibly in your lane. I can't imagine anything. Oh, Gabe, or look at David. He looks so happy, and now he's gone.
I love tapas.
That seems right up your alley. It seems. Yeah. I feel like you'd love a nice, small plate. You know?
The variety of life.
Yeah, you have the energy of like a 22-year-old girl, like teaching English.
Give me some. Yeah. Well, I spent a summer backpacking through southern Spain. I went to Valencia.
Did you?
And would you like to come to this tapas bar with me and get some papas bravas?
Patatas
And
bravas.
some chorizo.
Oh.
Let's do it. Yeah. I like bite-sized stories.
Mm-hmm,
So that's what
know?
That was the beautiful intro that we got for today's episode. We're gonna do some bite-sized little boys. We're gonna do
Why do you have to gender the stories, David?
All white-collar crime is male. That is just it's all greed. And all women are perfect, and the most perfect one is the one listening to this podcast right now. And so
I David's mom.
So the first one, WaWa settles ESOP lawsuit for $21.6 million for if you're not on the East Coast and you don't know anything about, economics or corporate stuff, that probably meant nothing to you.
Yes.
Truly gobbledygook. I mean, just WaWa.
Yeah, what is WaWa? What is that?
Yeah,
it sounds
Danny,
like something a toddler says.
Yeah, Danny, what's WaWa?
See, here's the thing. I am not from Philadelphia. I'm not from Pennsylvania, but I relate to the ridiculously named convenience store, which is essentially what WaWa is. I don't know if you guys know this, but in Oregon, in Portland, we have a place called Plaid Pantry. So, so I know you'd always, we're going to the Plaid to pick some stuff. That's what WaWa is, and Philadelphians are famously loyal to this brand of convenience store.
They have great sandwiches, I've heard.
They have great sandwiches. That is true.
Yes.
People love it.
Have you guys ever been to one?
No.
Okay, so I had a friend from college who she would just talk nonstop about WaWa, and she's from Philly, and she would just be like, the sandwiches are so good, and the ice cream is really, really good, and then she just kind of went through all the different options, and she's like, the soda fountain is amazing. You can always go to the soda fountain; it's so good. And then she was talking about how she brought up the sandwiches again, and then she talked about how even the hot dogs are good, and the cigarettes are always cheap. And I was just imagining something along the lines of Qdoba, just that level of excellence and perfect.
I was imagining some chain gang from a Coen Brothers movie that's black and white, where they're all preaching about the big rock candy mountain. And that's what.
Yeah.
It had that energy and level of love. And it was just I was expecting, the rivers made out of cigarettes or whatever.
Or chewing tobacco juice just flowing from tributaries and creeks. And you can put your little tin cup in there and scoop out as much tobacco juice as you want.
All the cops have wooden legs. Yeah.
The old Dip River.
And you're given a pouch of wooden nickels, but guess what? Everybody takes them because they're all suckers.
Yep. And none of the whores have syphilis. So that was WaWa for me. That's what I thought it was. And look, I go there, and look, it is a convenience store that's pretty good. That's it. That's my whole experience. I went there and I got a sandwich, and it was Subway quality, pretty good, solid, reasonable sandwich. And that's the thing about most gas stations and convenience stores, is that the fact that how high they were playing up WaWa makes you realize how horrible gas station food is otherwise. Like 7-Eleven is disgusting.
Yeah.
Well, think about how terrible the world in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is. That everyone's excited to go to Bartertown. That's what, like, if WaWa is the height of your civilization, man, you live in an apocalyptic wasteland.
Fly,
dude,
Eagles,
people
fly.
have that. People have that with fucking food. It's the same thing. I mean, I remember this guy from Florida who worked at my old job. He was fucking over the goddamn moon about Chick-fil-A. He was like, "Oh yeah, man, dude. One time we drove all the way to Florida to get some," and I was just sort of like, and then I remember the first time I had Chick-fil-A because we didn't really have them on the West Coast as much. I was just like, "Oh, cool, a okay chicken sandwich," or like, "Oh God, you gotta have In-N-Out. Oh, it's the best burger." It's like, wow, this thing. I mean, like, look, I'm from Seattle where we have Dick's hamburgers, which are like small, like yummy hamburgers, and like, look,
hell yeah, dude.
they're quite good. They're quite good. Now, do I think they're the best hamburger ever? Probably not. I'm willing to accept my own regionality. Come on,
guys. The thing is that people don't love the food. They love the experiences
their childhood
and their childhood,
yeah.
feeling like they have something meaningful to cling to about their life, because America sucks and capitalism is awful. And so the only way that you can feel like your life and your region means something is if you talk about how great WaWa is. Or like, I mean, really the worst example of this is Kansas City with barbecue. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, it's a horrible symptom of this of this larger problem that's everywhere in the country. Like Kansas City barbecue, there's so much barbecue in Kansas City. It's like great, but it is also like the most annoying travel channel cliche on earth about Kansas City Like, Kansas City's a nice town. There's some good things about it. Some of the barbecue's good. Some of the barbecue's fine. But you cling to it and you strive for it to be something because your life has to be something.
Yeah.
Didn't do the things that you wanted to do. You never you never moved to, Mexico after your senior year of high school like you told yourself you would. And therefore the barbecue has to be the greatest thing on earth.
Yeah, I understand this quaint Kansas City barbecue. I can see why you might really like that if that's where you're from. But have you ever been to the south of España? Have you been to Sevilla? Have you had calamar a la Roman?
Okay, so
champiñones rellenos.
Okay, really quick, what this was. WaWa settles Aesop because Gabe is reminding us that we are doing a tapas version of the story. WaWa settles an Aesop lawsuit, and Aesop is employee-owned stock ownership program, or employee stock ownership program.
Okay.
So it is when the company is owned in part by every single employee, basically. Right? So, nice thing.
That's pretty cool.
Workers owning the means of production. It's a rad thing. And it's reasonably common, right? Like, so this is a good thing. And because they are shareholders in the company, shareholders have certain rights. And basically, this sort of a lawsuit comes up when the company breaks the rights of the shareholders, aka the employees. So what it is that there are 10,000 former employees that had about $500 per share of WaWa stock that they owned. So they were supposed to, they breached their fiduciary duty because the former employees received less than fair market value for their stock holdings. That's kind of the whole thing. Like, this sort of stuff happens all the time in corporate law. The shareholders sue the owners because the owner messed up. The owner was racist. The owner, that's more recent. That's like a more new thing. But like but now it's really like they didn't make us enough money. That's like the big one. And what's cool about this structure is that if you own part of the company, all of a sudden you can do all the stinky shit that shareholders do in order to maintain some power over management. Next story. All right.
Yeah. Also, very quickly, I would also just say before we move on to the next thing, it's like, look, you don't have to like WaWa, but it's okay if you like collective ownership and bargaining. It's like the most. I feels like the most loyally followed things often get that. Like,
Right.
there are Green Bay Packers fans
There it is.
everywhere in the fucking United States, and they are so loyal to that goddamn team because it's owned by the shareholders. You know, there's something about that collectiveness where if people get fucked with, they're just like, no, you're fucking with me now. You know,
Right. Like, that's the thing, is if you wouldn't have this, like, oh my God, the sandwiches are great at WaWa, therefore I'm proud of it. You would say, no, I own part of WaWa, therefore I'm proud of it. Like, I work there and I own part of it. That is going to be a much more meaningful form of ownership than talking about how their turkey hoagies are so good. I mean, and they're fine. They're fine. They're pretty good.
It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. At this tapas bar, we have the CFTC has charged a Florida man for attempting to fraudulently profit from coronavirus.
Best state in the union.
Yeah,
Best men in the union.
Yeah. So
Florida, explored by Ponce de Leon, looking for the fountain of youth. OG Florida man.
Ponzi de Leon. Ponzi de Estrella.
Yeah, he's like, I miss my tapas, but maybe I'll find something better than those here in Florida.
Did you guys know that the capital of Florida is actually a mispronunciation of tapas? Tallahassee. It's actually tapas.
Tapas.
Well, anyways.
Yes. Yeah. So with this, when coronavirus first started, we had your blue collar assailing cruelty. Some guy somewhere hoarding all the toilet paper, trying to sell it for an exorbitant amount.
Oh yeah.
All that kind of stuff. Now we're getting into the second stage of people trying to screw people out of money.
Yeah.
The white collar source of it.
So I mean, the fun thing about it is we actually Googled Florida man, and
it's a game.
It's a fun thing to do.
It's a game.
There are two things. There are two separate cases of, quote, Florida man, two separate guys trying to illegally profit off of coronavirus, which is just kind of amazing. Like, one guy was charged by the CFTC. That's what started this. James Frederick Walsh. He was fraudulently trying to solicit some coronavirus. His solicitations include falsely claiming to generate increased profits as a result of the coronavirus pandemic.
CFTC stands for Commodity Futures Trading Commission, by the way.
Oh yeah. Commodities like tapas.
Yeah, I love their website. It's so efficient. But go on. Yeah, so one guy.
Yeah, so Walsh was soliciting members of the public for purpose, trading foreign currency. It's a big whole cottage industry of like illegally soliciting the trading of foreign currency. It happens all the time. It's called Forex. It's a big thing. And he was using social media platforms to market himself as a highly successful Forex trader who earned average monthly returns of 8 to 11%, or a flat 3% guaranteed profit of each month for his clients. He falsely claimed to have access to legal inside information about the direction in which Forex markets will move. As alleged, Walsh had no U.S.-based Forex trading accounts. Like, he just straight up lied. And part of it is that he is earning even greater trading profits because of coronavirus impacting financial markets, claiming that the returns in Forex continue to grow as the rest of the financial world continues to suffer. So God bless the white-collar Florida man. He's like really breaking stereotypes of not just like, Florida man like inserted meth into alligator's asshole and then like married his sister or whatever. Like, this man is doing some complicated, white-collar, sophisticated, fuck-ups. And whereas his other Florida man friend is a guy named Mark Greenan and his sons, Jonathan, Joseph, and Jordan of Bradenton, Florida, which... Bradenton, Florida. Yeah.
I like a family hustle, though. I really do. I like it when you keep it in the family with the sons working too.
Yeah,
I like that too. And I'm surprised that none of them are named Braden. I think that's a missed opportunity
He has the strong son who's like all big and looks like Blotto from Popeye. You got the weak son with the glasses. You've got a son who's like evil, who always wears a cloak. It's great.
Yeah.
I like cloak son walking around the Hot Topic and the cemeteries in the middle of August in Florida.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Never breaks a sweat.
Yeah, because he doesn't have sweat glands.
Just like Prince Andrew.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, so basically, they were manufacturing, promoting, and selling, I shit you not, Miracle Mineral Solution, a chemical solution containing sodium chloride and water, and saying that it was a cure for coronavirus.
Wait, salt? You saying salt? Sodium chloride? Salt?
Sodium chlorite.
Chlorite. Okay.
The men sold the toxic bleach under the guise of Genesis 2 Church of Health and Healing, an entity they had allegedly created in an attempt to avoid government regulation. This is a John Oliver episode. They created a church in order to avoid regulation. And what they were literally selling was poison.
Perfect.
Oh, man.
Side note, the Catholic Church got billions in PPE. Is that it?
Yeah, or
PPP.
PPP. Yeah.
They're down with PPP.
Yeah.
Yeah, insert pedophilia joke here.
Untaxed pedophilia.
Yeah.
So that is some nice Florida tapas. They did it. We love the family of the Bradenton family. And I mean, can you imagine just like being a dad and being like, come on, kids. Let's get the kids together. All three J names, and let's just ruin some lives.
Well, you know what it was is like he's got a daughter and she's pretty cool. Like she got out of Florida. Maybe she moved up north. She's got some she's into sort of new age healing. And one time for Christmas, she gave her dad. She left when she was visiting home. She left a small bottle of Dr. Bronner's soap in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And the dad, he looked at the Bronner's bottle. And I love Bronner's, man. That peppermint, it tingles everywhere, right? Especially the first time you use it after a long time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, with the loofah, Iceman, I'm tingling all over. But
dude, you're going crazy.
You see that bottle.
Yeah.
And you go, what is this nonsense on the whole thing? And the dad was like, yes. What do people need right now? They need some special like tonic, some old-timey carnival tonic. And here we go. This is the packaging.
Did I tell you about the time that I made my own Dr. Bronner's label?
No.
Dude, I sometimes I'll get on these like Adobe Illustrator kicks where I'll see something and I'll be like, I have to make a thing of that. So I got a Dr. Bronner's regular one, the ones that are like this big, about the size of a liter, you know. I measured it, got the color, took it into Adobe Illustrator, and then copied the design style of the text to like a perfect degree, and then started putting in my own nonsense. Like I put a spaghetti recipe in there. I put like a couple comedians bits in there.
Hell yeah.
That's how my
And
that's how my Dr. Bronner's joke got stolen.
Yeah, and then my idea was I was going to go to the Union Square Office Max and use their printers to print out a giant sticker and then put it over at Dr. Bronner's, go to the Bed Bath and Beyond over on 6th Avenue, and then switch them out.
Nice.
Randomly in the store. So somebody would be showering one day and they'd just be like, wait, what? Is this a Matt Brogner bit? Like what? What?
Dude, I think
still
we
have the design.
We could sell Ponzi Scream Dr. Bronner's face masks. Just get face masks and print out all of the ingredients off of his labels on the masks.
Yeah, or it could be like, oh, if you can read this nonsense, you're absolutely too close to me.
Hell
like
yeah.
one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Clever.
yeah,
Clever.
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 dude.
Clever. So
Oh God.
Okay,
That
next
is
tapas. We are now on to this is again another CFTC charges California and Colorado residents in an ongoing multi-million-dollar Ponzi scheme. Great. We love it. We know what the Ponzi scheme is. A lot of it was, they were saying that it's another Forex thing. Again, another Forex thing. So the complaint alleged that from 2015 to the present, they solicited more than $14.5 million from at least 91 members of the public, including more than 50 U.S. residents, for pooled investments in some options, some Forex, and stealing the vast majority of that money. They tried to conceal their fraud by issuing false account statements and making phony excuses to them for their failure to return the funds and deliver the promised profits. Over time, these excuses have grown more outlandish, including, for example, that European summer vacations delayed returns of funds, and that storms in the Bahamas had delayed the transaction processing.
Oh yeah. Like when you're trying to send your transaction by taking a couple hundreds, just duct taping them to a stork, throwing it up. And that stork gets caught in some of the global climate change that's happening. It's just delayed my transaction.
In the Bermuda Triangle, baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't turn the money. Actually, the money is now went through the Bermuda Triangle and is now in an alternative version of the 19th century.
Yeah, I mean, haven't you ever lost money in a vial vortices?
Yeah, haven't you ever thrown your money into like a endless swirling pool made of pure light where Charles Lindbergh is actually a presidential nominee?
I like the
So hey, sorry, landlord, I don't have my money, but my money's stuck in a Philip Roth novel.
Yeah.
Or what if the H.P. Lovecraft clause in your insurance policy? Well, there's a horror that's unnameable and undescribable, that's cosmic, and its maw opened up and made everyone that looked into it mad, including your accountants.
Pursuant to unnamed horror A, unnamed horror B may not unexclusively retain rights to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And then like the next clause is like, if you hear the money's heartbeat underneath the floorboards, you are required to rip them up and give them back to your landlord.
Well, nobody ever signs it because there are inevitably racial slurs because H.P. Lovecraft was a virulent racist. He was not a nice man at all.
But
he just happened. Yeah.
But he was also virile. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Yeah.
I have no idea. Have you guys read H.P. Lovecraft? I've never.
No, never tried.
Of course. Aren't you guys nerds? You gotta.
I know about.
You gotta read one H.P. Lovecraft short story in your life.
I honestly probably will now because like I love the universe of it. It's like set in like 1895 New Hampshire.
It all sounds like
settings.
when you read it, you read it in Sideshow Bob's voice, though.
Oh, cool.
Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
has
yeah.
it comes with that voice in your head
Mhm.
automatically.
Mhm.
You'll
What-
only
what's
hear
the-
it in the most grave possible delivery. You know, it's very
yeah, yeah.
He
what's like
speaks
a famous
spooky.
one? What's a really famous one?
You could just pick up a book of his short stories, man. But every movie today,
You've never read any of them. You don't.
they're
You're lying. You've never read them. You have no idea.
I've never finished an H.P. Lovecraft book of short stories. I know that the Ghostbusters animated series version of Dan Aykroyd's character loves H.P. Lovecraft, Howard Philip Lovecraft. But the Reanimator,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
the
Wow,
Necronomicon, From
Sure,
Beyond.
sure.
Oh, and then
Okay.
a movie that I
Okay.
hated that just came out, which was the Color Out of Space.
Okay, all right. Okay,
Wow,
all right.
Nice. Well, Gabe Googling H.P. Lovecraft.
That was me
stories.
Googling mad shit right now. Yeah.
That wraps up our tapas section of today's Ponzi Scream. We're gonna move into some nice. How do you guys feel about some entrees? Some good old fashioned big stories.
Sure.
All right. So what's going on? Like how? I don't know. What is it? How are you guys doing? Like,
Well,
how are you?
I mean,
guys?
I work from home and it's a nightmare. I know some people are unemployed, but having to be on Zoom all day with 7-year-olds is brain melting. So
Mhm.
I'm just wondering if this is going to be a reality for everyone. Labor in the future
Right.
is going to be more of a nightmare than commuting and seeing people in face to face.
See, Gabe and I have the same amount of torture, but in the exact opposite ways. Because I was delivering on Friday when a tropical storm Faye, I think its name was Tropical Storm Faye, came in, and I am not lying to you when I say that I was the most soaked that I have ever been in my entire life riding a bicycle. Like it started raining.
Okay. You added that.
It
at
started.
the very end.
Yeah,
Okay.
it started raining and it did not stop raining. And I was doing deliveries all day. I went up from basically the Bowery all the way up to 132nd and 3rd. Picked up a thing, headed down, and I just looked like a joke. Like it was like raining sideways. I looked like I had just stepped out of a pool, and I was just like, I mean, thank God it was 78 degrees, because if it was cold, I just would have gotten hypothermia. Like I just wouldn't have made it. But yeah, I was absolutely soaked just outside all day, and then I did more deliveries on a delivery app that I work for, and got soaked again when, like, after the eye of the storm passed over me, because I was going over the Williamsburg Bridge and I was like, oh, cool, it's clearing up. I can see the sun. And then it got way worse because it just like, it was the actual eye going over where you could see the sky for a second.
Yeah. So you were being chased by the clouds.
Oh, all day. I was it was raining so hard it actually broke my earbuds. I was listening. I had one of my earbuds, and then at one point during the day, one of them just shorted out because it got too wet, and I was like, "How is that possible? It's not even like close. It's not even getting rained on."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm unemployed. I as many of you know, I lost my job because apparently it's not okay for you to be naked in a work editorial call anymore because of political correctness. And so that's why I lost my job. It's pretty fucked up. I can't think of any other reason why. but I am suing my employer for me being my choice to become naked all the time and be drunk at work. And that's the only real thing that's new with me in my life. That's not true. I lost my job because my employer retaliated against me for unionism.
I was gonna say I couldn't. I was like, all right, David's playing it coy, and it's just like, nah, no.
But I don't know. Like, I think that I lost my job because either because of a private equity firm like hollowing out my publication or because of anti-union retaliation. But the reason why I wanted to ask that is not because I care about you guys, because it's because there is just a lot of speculation about like when in a lot of these financial publications, but like when is the economy gonna recover? Like what is going on? How are people reading what's going on in the economy? And there's this piece in Bloomberg that is called "Wall Street Forges a New Deal with Data in the Coronavirus Age." And so it sounds,
it sounds,
yeah.
It sounds like you just barfed in my mouth. I hate it.
So basically, everyone's trying to figure out, like what is going on with the economy. Like, is the economy doing well? When is it gonna bounce back? And everyone has their own unique set of obsessions, apparently, often different from the rest of the world. What the rest of the world is focused on. Relentlessly forward-looking, investors have become all but inured to the economic reports that once set Wall Street's pulse. So there's new standards of interpretation, basically. So there's now all of a sudden people are looking, and there's a rundown, basically, of some of the coronavirus data that investors say that they're interested in, plus a sampling of high-frequency measures that they track otherwise. And this whole thing just makes me want to fucking gag. Just like it goes through all these metrics as to determine how well the economy is doing.
Okay. So like instead of there being their regular boilerplate algorithms where they're like, it is 75 degrees out, ergo people are going to want to buy umbrellas, Now what they're doing is they have that, but then they're like, it looks as though 7,000 people died today in Florida, so I think people are going to want to buy oak caskets instead of wood,
exactly
other ones.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. So, like, as a reminder, there are people on state and federal unemployment insurance. According to the Labor Department, said it was 31.5 million. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says that the underreported unemployment data is actually 13.7 million. So there's just like there's huge amounts of people unemployed, right? Like just and there are how many people dying from coronavirus every day? Like this, we could look at the numbers, but by the time this podcast episode comes out, the numbers are going to be new and different. There's going to be a new record in Florida. There's going to be a new record in Texas, probably California. And what these investors are saying is, when do we think that it's going to be time for the coronavirus as a result of these issues? When is that going to is that going to
issues?
Yeah. I mean, like, as a result of these problems, when is it going to be a good time for us to invest? And when will it be a sign that things are better? Like, that's here's a couple examples. So basically, a few of the metrics that they're looking at are reproduction rate of how fast it's growing, fatality rate of coronavirus, positivity rate of coronavirus, demographics, like who is getting coronavirus. There's someone who is saying that if the demographics prove that there are more young people getting coronavirus than old, then the economy is doing better. Like, it's
what the fuck?
Hospitalization rates and ICU capacity is another one. And then this one guy says a higher rate could have a silver lining, says RBC Capital Markets' Tom Porcelli. If new infections are concentrated in young, non-vulnerable population, the spike in cases could very well morph into a positive into a positive as we build herd immunity well ahead of the much feared 2021 flu season. Like, the people who are quoted in this are other people like Tom Lee, co-founder and head of research at Fundstrat Global Advisors, Ben Axler, founder and chief investment officer of Spruce Point Capital, Evercore ISI's Dennis Debouchier. He highlighted metrics that included median age of those who've been infected with coronavirus, as well as the share of total U.S. deaths reported in long-term care facilities. None of these people are fucking doctors or epidemiologists.
Yeah. It's really, I think what's particularly salient about this is obviously like the humanity of it is just, like, very leached out of it.
Yeah.
So people are just looking at like numbers and figures and what have you. But in some these people, they're just trying to quantify and metricize like every and anything they can just to prove that their job matters when it just there's no rhyme or reason. Or like we all live in New York City, which is kind of weird right now because there were very recently reported no new coronavirus deaths in New York City,
Woo.
which is like a positive thing. And
Yeah.
yet there are still large crowds of people outside, many of them unmasked, which is always a very disconcerting thing. So, it's one of those things where it's like, well, shouldn't the cases be going up in New York City? But also now everything's catching up in the Midwest and the South and California, etc. So when these people are like, no, you don't understand. I found the algorithm. I figured it out. This is what this is going to be. It's just sort of like, no, you don't know. You don't know.
Yeah.
Why bother?
They don't know.
Yeah.
And it's so callous to like just be looking at these horrible things happening over and over and over again. There's severe amounts of like death and just sickness. And there are people who are legitimately thinking, when is this going to, like, how is this going to be good for my money?
How do I turn a profit off the misery? What is the system
yeah.
that I'm using for gambling on the deck of the sinking ship?
Right.
The craps
Yeah,
table is
it's,
still operating in the middle of
Like-
the fire
like
on the sinking ship.
Right. Like
Yeah.
the people in like the tapas part of this episode like are all scammers and things like that. But all of these people who are being quoted in this story have the exact same incentive as these people who were arrested for, breaking the law for some, scam that they're doing. I mean, there is the difference is that they are speculating and trying to profiteer off of death, but they're just doing it through some mechanism that's viewed legitimate.
Yeah, we live in this weird sort of society where we're willing to tolerate this version of it, but it's the on the face versions of other things that people find abusive or weird. Like if somebody came, it like there very well might be a sort of unknown clause people kind of use and initiate, like when they find out that their loved one has died or whatever. It's understood that there shouldn't be a coffin salesman being like, I see you might need a casket sometime soon. Like that guy knows not to stay outside of that person's emergency room because it's just incredibly insensitive to that kind of thing.
What?
But
Dude,
when
that
things-
sounds like a great sales tactic, though.
I know it's a good sales. No, you're right. It is right, but you'd probably be fucking charged out of that hospital by pitchforks and angry relatives.
Have you guys seen What's Eating Gilbert Grape? You ever see that movie?
No, I haven't.
I
I've never seen
did,
it.
but I don't remember anything about it.
So Gilbert Grape's like best friend is like the only funeral director in this small town, and he's hilarious. The whole thing, he just goes in and he's just like constant, like, I don't know, he's like comedic relief. Love the guy. have no joke associated with this, guys.
I just look. My name is David, and I love movies.
Yeah.
All right?
Well, I like the trope in like an Old West movie, right? A Wild West film. There's the main street in the small town, and then there's the coffin maker, and he's always excited when the mysterious stranger comes into town to clean things up because it means there's going to be more bodies.
Oh boy. Yeah.
You know, that's necrocapitalism in microcosm, and now we're just seeing necro. That's the name of the band. Necrocapitalism is what these guys are engaged in right now. It's just profiting off of tabulating the body count.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. Wow, that's good.
and they're like doing it. You know, we don't really notice it as much because they're doing it in this weird sort of like, again, number oriented, like obtuse, unrelatable way.
Right.
You know, and they're hiding it. You know, if they just said in plain English, you know, I'm trying to find out how a dead 3-year-old will help my business.
Right.
Like people would just people be like, that's terrible, you know.
And it's all based.
They just hide it. They hide it in all the jargon, you know.
And what I think is like really weird about it is it really gets to the point of like what there is just so many questions about like what is economic productivity, like how do you measure like what a good economy is, and they talk about these like real-time economic data as well. In addition to coronavirus, they talk about how like the economy is good when gasoline consumption is up. You know that the economy is good when there's a lot of restaurant bookings, when there's a lot of credit card spending. People are going into more debt. And it gets to the real like there isn't really none of this is talking about people having none of this is real. I don't know. I can't really say it any other way. Like there's no like they're just grasping at straws as to like what real people are feeling constantly. And they're just like, well, what if I have so much money and I've never spoken to a single person in my entire life who doesn't have as much money as I do? What are people feeling? What's the beat on the street? Let me go look at Grubhub's data and see how many people are ordering delivery food. Maybe that'll help me determine whether people are happy or not. Like, let me look at how many children are dying of coronavirus versus their grandparents. Maybe that will help me determine whether people are happy or not. Like, there's just such a separation, and that is the way that they determine whether the economy, quote unquote, is good, not whether the economy is bad. And it's also even crazier because we've got to a place in our since the financialization of our economy, which we'll get into in a sec, there is a real separation between capital accrual and labor, like wages rising. Like they are no longer correlated like they were in the post-war years. And so there's just so much money going into people who are like investors, like these people quoted in this story, and there's no real understanding of what it means to anyone because no one really knows what it is doing to us. Like there's here's another thing. This is from Reuters. Basically, the Federal Reserve, as you guys know, put in $3 trillion of virus rescue stuff to
yes, I remember that.
Mostly into the hands of corporate America, right? Like to keep the airline industry afloat, to keep some, hospitality sectors afloat, and really
Big
Shout
oil.
out Catholic Church. Yeah.
Big oil in the Catholic Church.
Love it.
Yeah, they need it. They need it.
So,
they need it, Gabe.
So this is happening so much that it's actually there's a quote that from this story. The story is titled "Federal Reserve's $3 trillion virus rescue inflates market bubbles." So everyone is worried that basically now what's happening is that the U.S. Central Bank pledged an unlimited financial asset purchases to sustain market liquidity, increasing its balance sheet from $4.2 trillion in February to $7 trillion today. What that means is they are buying government bonds and mortgage-backed securities, which are partially owned by the government. So what does that means that you have money, right? You want to invest some of your money. What you'll sometimes do is you'll buy government bonds. Government
I
bonds
love doing that.
This is basically just the government paying out unemployment to corporate America. Like
They love doing that.
Mhm.
They love doing that.
Yeah.
They're I mean, and that's what. So this is the quote. This is the head of International Fixed Income at Nat Alliance. This guy named Andrew Brenner. COVID-19 is now inversely related to the markets. The worse that coronavirus gets, the better the markets do because the Fed will bring in stimulus. That is what has been driving markets.
I love it. That's what I'm talking about, man. That's that
Here.
That's that pandemic relief money, dude. That's $600 a week.
Yeah.
We're all on universal basic income, and so are the corporations now. And so how do you turn the spigot off on them when they're addicted to it?
Yeah.
This is I think I have a way to conceptualize this so it's like so we can relate it to like another time period so that people already know is bad. As everyone who listens to the show knows, I am now in hour 30, I would say, of The Power Broker. And we have just gotten past to the part where they talk a little bit about the Depression, all right?
Okay.
The big depression.
Exactly. And the Depression affected Robert Moses and his family as well, even though they were very rich, as well as everybody in the United States. And one of the things that happened is he actually invested in a type of bond that was like a mortgage bond, essentially.
Right.
So it was like a thing where it's like, oh, I am basically betting that this piece of property is going to like yield whatever profit
Right, and
it's
that's
going to yield.
Yeah.
And
It's happened forever.
people, yeah, and people don't conceptualize what a bond is until it fails. Because when the Depression happened, a lot of these like guaranteed profit bonds failed. And then instead of having this thing that pays you out over time, it turns into a piece of paper that means nothing. And what happens when the entire economy goes from we are steadily making money until, oh no, now this is a bunch of worthless paper.
Holy
That doesn't
shit.
mean anything.
I got a pile of pogs in my safe.
Yeah, exactly.
So now what's like a weird thing is actually the Fed is almost like overcorrecting that problem from the Great Depression, when they are buying up people's bonds and they are buying up corporate bonds especially. Okay.
Mhm.
So basically, if you are a corporation and all of a sudden no one is buying your product, the coronavirus has ruined you, everyone's losing their job, no one's shopping, you need money, you need liquidity. So you have all these investments, mostly bonds, and that's how the Federal Reserve bails people out, is they'll just say, I will, like, okay, we will buy your bonds. And that is how, that's what they're doing right now. But what that's creating is this incentive system wherein the longer coronavirus goes on, the more the Fed is going to bail people out by buying up their bonds. So the more prolonged this coronavirus pandemic happens in the United States, the more corporations are going to be making artificial money, basically.
Yeah,
and
it's
is
going
not
to keep
earned
it's going to keep
from capitalism.
It's going to keep going. It's going to keep going up. The problem is going to be it's like no. This is above my pay grade. Send the problem up here. No. The problem is above my pay grade. Send it up here. And you're going to get to a point that is bad on a federal level. It's not just like a corporation failing or whatever. It's just sort of like, nah, man, we keep making money and giving it, and then it fails or whatever, or disappears, so to speak. And I mean, what happens when you just invalidate an entire country's
insane inflation, just absolutely rampant inflation. Like there is so much talk about okay, I'm not worried about like the debt. There's no deficit really for the Federal Reserve to owe itself back money that it's giving out. But the longer you just start giving out paying out corporate bonds, there is just never going to. There's just going to be so much money that's artificially earned to keep people afloat, and eventually there's just going to be a fuck ton of money that it's going to become meaningless because none of it's actually tied to labor. Labor creates wealth in an economy, right? Labor is why a dollar means a dollar, okay? And if you don't have any labor tied to that currency, then it's just going to be the Federal Reserve just giving you bullshit. And there is it's very glib almost at this point to say like, oh, well, we have corporate socialism and stuff like that. But like, this is happening on such a vast scale. Not just that it is like invalidating merit and it's like further proving that like corporate elites are like being leeches on the economy and that they have like, there's a double standard for the rich and the poor and like all that hypocrisy stuff. It's like really, it is important, but it's literally getting to the point where it is also going to create insane runaway inflation.
Yeah, like actually the actual bad,
like a really
kind
bad,
of
yeah,
inflation.
like a really bad thing, not just like some like injustice. And in the meantime, no one's doing anything about coronavirus. This is going to keep going on, and looming evictions may soon make 28 million people homeless in the United States, according to the CNBC. People are still wondering whether the coronavirus economy is doing well. This is a weird story. A United States town prints its own currency to boost coronavirus relief.
Hell yeah.
This is
Ooh, some script.
Yeah,
I love it.
This is from Washington, a town named Tenino, and they're literally getting a wooden printing press, bringing it back to life. A wooden printing press, cranking it back to life to mint currency after nearly 90 dormant years. What happened 90 years ago? The Great fucking Depression happened 90 years ago. They are,
They're doing some, this is some Chaz shit. This is some good chazzing. They are becoming an autonomous zone.
Yeah, they're making Tonino bucks. That's so good. Yeah, they could put somebody's cat on one of the dollars. It'll be great. Like, that's so interesting. What I'm from Washington, so I'm actually curious where this is, because this must be in Eastern Washington, which I am less familiar with.
So this is a $25 wooden bill bearing the town's name, Tenino, with the words "COVID relief" superimposed on the image of a bat and the Latin phrase, "We have it under control," printed in cursive. I mean, this whole thing is basically for the rich. They are getting, Federal Reserve corporate bonds, and in small towns, Eastern Washington is like well known to be much lower income than Western Washington. They are literally reviving their wooden coin industry. The wooden nickel is coming back.
Yeah, man.
Look at that. Look at this. I'm on their Wikipedia. First of all,
oh no, it's not.
It's actually like a little bit south of Seattle. It's kind of like near Tacoma. Population of 1,695. Not a lot of people. But yeah, the Tonino wooden money issued during the Great Depression. This place has a rich history of being like, all right, you guys are fucking, or the federal government, you're fucking us over. We'll make some Tonino bucks, That's so funny.
So it's not in Eastern Washington.
No.
But it's still just this small town. It is so crazy. The story says, this is from the story from someone, a Tonino resident, the mayor actually. It said, "My great aunt Erlene has the family collection of Tonino bucks all stashed away." Like, this has been going on. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to make of it, because in some ways it's like lit, right? Creating the Chaz. You're like doing some like, this is maybe from the anarchist cookbook of 1931. Cool. But also like, just to see the discrepancy is fucking infuriating.
It is really funny, because obviously there's been so many stories of like, all right, we're gonna send the Hell's Angels into Seattle to, wash out the Chaz, get them out of the Capitol Hill area. Meanwhile, this place, I want to say maybe 100 miles from Seattle, like, is doing a very similar thing. Like, it's similar so much in it's like the number of people involved, about 1,500. They're subverting like a national federal mandate of like currency and like what they can do in exchange. If they just happen to not be on Capitol Hill, it's wild. That's so interesting.
So this is a fun weird fact about this about like alternative currencies is just there used to be everywhere in the United States in the 19th century, and then when the national bank system kind of came around, there used to be like every state, so like some states would have it, some like regions of some states would have their own currency, and now then they kind of all became standardized as like basically the United States developed into a modern federal nation, right? But it seems like it was a whole thing that was just created for these times of like extreme poverty, basically. And we are fucking in it, man. Like we're fucking in it. This is the bad times, and this is worse than the Great Depression. Like it has to be.
Yeah, the real question is when does the floor fall out? And I think that's the $1 million question right now, because we all obviously saw
The floor already hasn't fallen out.
Well, it did, but the thing is like, when does it really fall out? Because when the coronavirus first hit, the stock market like dipped a fucking huge amount, and in a weird way, and then all this weird artificial stuff happened. I'm speaking vaguely, obviously, and because a lot of financial things happened in order to make the stock market rebound, and now we're in this sort of like weird zone where like real estate owners are trying to buy up properties on the cheap, and people are moving from like cities to less populated areas, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, my question is like, when does the rubber meet the road and like people actually start feel like it's like, oh shit, we can't hide around this financialization anymore. It's just like things are just bad.
Well, I think what things will. I think that actually, to what Trump I think was smart about for his own self-preservation is that he used the National Defense Authorization Act, or whatever it's called, to nationalize and require that the meat industry basically become to maintain their production through coronavirus, because he recognized that once people go hungry, that's when it really happens.
That's when we go to Barter Town, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you can't get your meats,
Yeah.
then it's like all of a sudden the United States becomes Arby's. We have the meats.
I don't. Yeah.
Well, that's when Alex Jones is real. Like, well, how he was saying, like, look, if it's between you and me, if it's between me and my neighbors, I'm gonna make sure my daughters eat. There's no way my daughters are gonna starve. I'm gonna eat you. I'm gonna eat your ass. Like, that's all of Florida. That's millions of Florida man are thinking that. So we gotta keep the slaughterhouses pumping out fresh tenderloins.
Yeah. It's I would also say this, just because I don't want to just come across as a doomsayer necessarily, is like, like one thing that Joe Rogan will continually go on about is just sort of like, when things first happened, we really saw how little society was holding itself together. Like, this is right when some of the protests were happening. All right.
Right.
So like, you see clips when you're a comedian on YouTube, essentially. Once you're a comedian, YouTube is like, oh, you're a comedian, so you would like to hear about Joe Rogan. So you naturally, they get thrown into your queue a lot or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And his whole thing was like, we're barely holding ourselves together. This is insane and crazy and blah 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 blah. All that regular Joe Rogan horse shit, you know. But what I would say to that is that, like, yeah, things are very uncertain and things are it's like it is scary, you know. But honestly, if Tonino can kind of like get its own shit together and, you know, make do, and hell, even just like make and have that persist through like their own temporary currency, or just like make it so like people don't go hungry or whatever. It's like, well,
no, it's cool.
That's Tonino, baby. Let it you know, I mean, people, very few people I think are just like abjectly cruel and like stupid, like Alex Jones and Joe Rogan, who are just like, no, I'm gonna fucking kill somebody the minute I get a chance. You know?
Yeah, and those people never will. Like like the person who like barks about it the most is never gonna actually be the most aggressive in real, like, if that actually happened, because they are cowards. I mean, that's like most of, like, the people if there's actually like some sort of like civil war, like the purge or like zombie apocalypse thing, like all those people will die first. There's just I don't believe any of them. None of them have like lived real things. None of them have done anything real. Like, all these people live in like multi-million-dollar McMansions in the middle of a suburban enclave, and like don't talk to anyone. And so everything that they do is purely in this superficial, like artificial, not superficial, it's like artificial, like late capitalist bubble where there's no empirical consequences for their actions. So they'll say whatever the fuck they want because they've never experienced reality ever.
Yeah. Gabe, you looked like you had a facial expression that sort of said, like, I do have a cache of weapons buried somewhere. Yeah, well, that one right there.
I just I don't know too much about what Rogan's saying in terms of violence. I don't really care too much. I think more that when we talked about the bottom falling out, nations are temporary. And it doesn't mean that the world's going to end. I just think that whatever we have, I'm totally willing to imagine a possibility of a future where there's a completely different organization, or where there's different lines of territory drawn.
Yeah, it's
that's how I look at it.
The independent nation of Tonino.
Yeah, that might happen.
Yeah, things change, and from a comedy level, very quickly, like, I think I don't know if you guys have seen it, but like I've seen the occasional Facebook post of people, some of our friends who are maybe a little bit more famous, they're trying to tour, and it's only with like this accelerated, pandemic stuff happening where we're 4 months into it, and they are deciding to go out into the world and try to do that you do kind of see like the absurdity of it to an extent. It's like you really had to go to Cincinnati, Ohio, to a comedy club that is over putting people in a row. They're smashing people together in a place that has had less of a coronavirus peak, where there's a huge possibility of things spiking up there, and you had to do it. You really had to go there. That is absurd. It really is. There's this one guy in the Portland comedy. He always put it best. He said it was a bit where he was just like, people always say, oh yeah, when I you're helping people. Laughter is the best medicine. It's just like, oh no, you don't understand. I would do this if it hurt people. and now we're actually kind of seeing that. It's like, no, you don't understand. I will do this even if it hurts people.
Well, that's what I love the Dark Knight Returns, the comic book, and in Dark Knight Returns, the Joker goes on David Letterman and he gasses the entire audience with Smilex, and that's kind of what I think of every time I hear that a comedian's going to go on tour and perform
Mhm,
indoors. It's like, oh, what if you or anyone else, like D.L. Hughley performed and passed out on stage and he had coronavirus and he wasn't wearing a mask. So that's just everybody in there has now been exposed.
Well, I think
You
an
know?
important takeaway from this is that stand-up comedians are not essential workers. But podcasters are.
Podcasting is essential work.
It is
Well,
essential.
yeah.
We absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely. I'm only doing this as you guys all remember, we started doing Ponzi Scream as an act of public service from the Federal Reserve gave us money to start this podcast. And
This is a
that was-
psyop.
We started this
Yeah.
we started this podcast what was it, the third week of coronavirus? Is that when was that our first episode? And we've been feeding people necessary information. I like to think of this as like the fireside chats of
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You're by a radio and you're just saying, pee-pee jokes into it. You're like,
pee 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 pee. This is the podcast where we talk about really complicated things and then tell people to not worry about it. It's not important. That's what
it is. It's important. It's important. People forget that so many financial things are interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're interesting. And I think it's funny when people try to be like, look, it's like, it's not a spade. And then I'm like, it's a spade, So yeah, that's it. Don't worry, y'all. Don't worry.
Anyways, well, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. I think that,
That was a full plate.
that
That was a full plate with a bunch of little plates in it
yeah,
or on
that
it.
was what
around
I don't
it.
even. Oh God, yeah. I kind of wish we had just done an episode to have just tapas. I was kind of full after that already, but the
Gabe
steak
brought
that
a lot.
was that was just,
Gabe brought a bunch of little plates, and then David was just like, "I have a whole bowl of mashed potatoes."
a plato fuerte.
Yeah.
Well, you just read an article, someone's like, "How's the economy doing?" and you just get mad, and so then you have to spend a half an hour talking about why they're dumb. These are important meal prep things. My stomach was upset, and I had to do something about it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know. You guys want to wrap up? Are we done?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
I feel
done.
good.
That was great.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been Ponzi Scream. My name's David, I think.
I'm Gabe.
Yeah.
I think my name is Kevin. Yeah, that's my name. Yeah.
And in the apocalypse, I guess we should all have like gnomes the apocalypse, right? So I would want my like a gnome de guerre, but like a gnome de apocalypse. I guess mine can be Florence. I'll be Florence.
Like the machine.
No.
I'm gonna be Fudge. That's my name.
All right.
Fudge. Yeah.
Gabe.
Freddy is perfect. That's great. We'll do Freddy.
All right.
Keep
Cool.
F names. It'll be great.
Yeah.
We're a family. All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.